Massive Oilers trade update, guys. The new trade target for the Oilers has been revealed, and he is someone that is going to come in and hopefully bolster the wing depth as we get closer to the trade deadline. And on today's episode of Oilers Digest, we will be talking about that and more. But before we get into that, hope you guys are having an amazing day. Welcome back to the channel. And if this is your first time, welcome to Oilers Digest. We are covering all the Oilers content in the most digestible way possible. My name is Nikash Ganguli. Hope everything is going well. And before we get into that, we do have to say, make sure you guys are subscribed to the channel. We are getting closer and closer to 3,000 subscribers. So, if you guys are enjoying the channel, you know, we have a lot of stuff coming up soon. The trade line's up soon. The playoffs are up soon. The Four Nations are coming up soon, featuring Connor McDavid, Mattias Ekholm, and Victor Arvidsson. That'll be something we'll be covering on the channel as well. So, if you guys are enjoying the channel, enjoying the videos, hit the subscribe button. If you want notifications, hit that bell as well. With that being said, let's get quickly into the video. So there has been a lot of talk about the Oilers and their wing depth recently. It has been a topic of contention because a lot of the wingers haven't been pulling their weight per se. Guys like Jeff Skinner has been on the chopping block a lot for Oilers fans, although he has had strung together a couple good games recently. Someone like Victor Arvidsson, Vasily Podkolzin. All the wingers just aren't chipping together as much as you would like to. The Oilers, again, are obviously a top-heavy team, so you're trying to find these depth guys to come in and, you know, really outvalue their current contracts. Guys like Arvidsson and Podkolzin and Skinner aren't making a lot of money on the cap, but a significant enough amount to where you'd want them to produce more. So let's get into that really quickly. If we look at the Oilers lines here, we obviously have Victor Arvidsson, Connor McDavid, Zach Hyman. Not a bad lineup. Jeff Skinner, who's been moved up with Leon Draisaitl and Vasily Podkolzin. And then the bottom six is still decent. It's looking solid. Mattias Janmark, Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, and Connor Brown, with Corey Perry, Adam Henrique, and Sperry Chapman. A very solid fourth line. I think ideally, you might want Adam Henrique to play above a 4C role. It seems a little below his pay grade. Honestly, he's probably a little bit better than that. I mean, he hasn't had the strongest season goals-wise for the Oilers, but I think if you look at Adam Henrique and his whole career, I think he's a little bit better than a 4C. It might be something the Oilers look to acquire the line. But specifically today, let's take a look at the Oilers' top six wingers, because who we're focusing on today as someone the Oilers can bring in is none other than Rickard Rakell of the Pittsburgh Penguins. And before we dive super deep into Rickard Rakell, let's discuss why the Oilers do need him, obviously. So, if we look here quickly at Victor Arvidsson's stats, as you can see, not playing that well. He did come off a pretty big injury last season with the LA Kings, barely played for them, and he only has 7 goals. He's been a notoriously consistent goal scorer before that season in LA. In Nashville, if you guys do not know, he was one of you know, not the best goal scorers in the league, but one of the most consistent, especially at even strength. He was known for potting goals. He only has 18 points, 39 games, just not what you want from Victor Arvidsson, who's playing a lot, been getting opportunities with McDavid and Draisaitl, and somehow he still can't produce. And it's getting to the point with the Oilers where, despite them being a very, very strong team, they're always fighting for first in their division. You do need more offense from Victor Arvidsson. He can play both wings. He's a little bit versatile, but his shooting percentage is also pretty low at 7%. You want him to shoot a little bit higher than that. But just looking at the raw stats without diving into the deeper analytics, you just want more from Victor Arvidsson. 18 points, simply not enough from the guy. You could attribute that again to the injury, but if you're playing 15 minutes a night, and a lot of that is spent with Connor McDavid or Leon Draisaitl, arguably the top 2 players in the NHL right now, you would want more out of him, certainly. So that's one issue with the Oilers right now, is the wing depth. And obviously, if you look at another player, Vasily Podkolzin, who came in as kind of a value deal from the Vancouver Canucks, he was a very highly touted prospect, only 23 years old. You know, at first, I feel like Oilers fans were kind of pleased with him. He was doing okay, but recently he just hasn't been that good. Only 6 goals, 20 points in 54 games. Again, it's similar to the Victor Arvidsson conversation. These guys just simply aren't producing enough for what the Oilers need. Now, the Oilers have been able to outscore a lot of their problems. If you look at the power play, it is always good, always clicking. McDavid and Draisaitl, they're 120, 130 point players. Draisaitl's probably going to win the Hart this year, and McDavid has been the best player in the league the past 10 years, it feels like. But generally speaking, guys like Podkolzin, You want him to produce more if he's playing on the top lines. It's the Victor Arvidsson conversation. Well, it's almost like the Oilers have 3 Podkolzins or 3 Arvidssons or 3 Skinners. You just want more from all of them. So if we do dive into Jeff Skinner's stats as well, who has been playing a little bit better recently, but he's been a healthy scratch at times. He's shooting below 10%. He has 10 goals, which is nice, but only 19 points, which is similar production to both Arvidsson and Podkolzin. You want more from all 3 of these guys. Jeff Skinner has taken a lot of shots, 100 shots already, which is decent. He should get up to maybe around the 200, 175 mark, which is decent. But he also hasn't got the same opportunity Arvidsson and Podkolzin have with the McDavid and Draisaitl. He's been 3rd line, 4th line scratch. But I think now Skinner is up in a line, so he might be a little better. But the big main takeaway from this is someone the Oilers have been linked to and could be huge for them is going to be none other than Rickard Rakell, who is on the Pittsburgh Penguins right now. The Pittsburgh Penguins are apparently having a fire sale. Aside from Sidney Crosby, Evgeny Malkin, and Kris Knoblauch, everyone is available to be traded. And Rickard Rakell is a pretty consistent player and could come in and make an impact, be rejuvenated with the Oilers team, play with a McDavid, play with a Draisaitl. He's a highly skilled player. He already has 46 points in 54 games this year. He's already up at 24 goals. 24 goals would be a very, very nice addition to the Oilers lineup, of course. Prior to that, 37 points. A little bit of a down year last year. But before that, he's consistent 60-ish, 44. You're going to get 40 to 60 points out of him every year. This year has been one of his best years in recent times. He's playing a lot more, getting a lot more opportunity with the depleted Penguins team. So I think this would be a great addition for the Oilers. We also have the Evander Kane conversation, which we'll talk about kind of at the end of this video. So I think Rickard Rakell would be great. And while his regular season stats are consistent, he's only 31 years old. If we do dive into his playoff stats here, it's not that bad either. Although you have to go a little far back to see one of his best performances, which was all the way in 16-17. I believe that was Connor McDavid's sophomore year, just to date it a little. He was only 23. And recently, he hasn't made the playoffs in a while. He's played a lot of playoff games, but nothing that consistent. But he also was really young. So, is there a lot to take away from this playoffs, aside from one really good season, one really good playoff run in 16-17, which is almost 8 years ago now, where he had 13 points in 15 games? Really, not too much to take away from the playoffs. But I think if he does come into the Oilers, he's going to look really good with them. He's a good skater, good player, played with a lot of skilled guys. Even if you think all the way back to Anaheim, the Ryan Getzlavs and prime Corey Perrys of the world, Ryan Kesslers. And then coming to Pittsburgh, he's played with the Crosbys and Malkins. So you know he has experience playing with some of the best in the world at what they do. Now, obviously you can't talk about trades in the NHL without bringing up the contracts, of course. So if we look at Rickard Rakell's contract, it's not that bad of a cap hit given his production. He's 31 years old. He's $5 million left, an extra year after this. Maybe you would have to pay a little more to get the Pittsburgh Penguins to retain on that deal. But I don't think it's that bad of a contract. $5 million in today's NHL, as we've heard in recent days, the cap is supposed to shoot up immensely over the next 2 years. So next year when the cap goes up, Rickard Rakell is already going to be at $5 million. Not that bad for an Oilers team. He's not that old, and he's honestly pretty solid. I think at only, oh, sorry, I'm reading this wrong. He has 3 more years on his deal, which honestly still isn't that bad, which honestly makes my cap conversation even better. Because in 2 years, when this becomes a 35-plus contract or whatever, the cap's going to be up. Like, his contract will be like $3 million, $3.5 million in equivalency. And I think that's something, as hockey fans, we're going to have to get used to. It's players we might not think are typically worth $5 million are going to get $5 million because the cap is so high and you work with percentages of the cap and whatever. So I think this isn't a bad addition for the Oilers. I don't think it's that expensive. And also, I genuinely believe if they get him and it doesn't work out, there are teams that would be willing to take Rickard Rakell because he's a vet in the league. He's 6'1", 203, not that small. He's solid. He's a good player, and I think it would be a decent acquisition for the Edmonton Oilers. And I think if you're going to pitch out trades for all these guys that have been brought up, like the Yanni Gorge or the Brad Marchands of the world, like Rickard Rakell is a good bet. He's cost control. The Oilers are trying to go for a deep run. They do have to re-sign McDavid and Bouchard eventually, which could put a wrench in the system in terms of this contract. But right-handed as well, can play center, can play wing. He's very solid. And speaking of him playing center, if you look at the Pittsburgh Penguins' most recent lineup, Rickard Rakell is lining up as their first-line center with Crosby and Malkin now. Obviously, Crosby's been hurt, so that'll be interesting. But this, to me, while they've been injured, does speak to Rickard Rakell's versatility to play all wings and all lines. If you need him to be that first-line center, which the Oilers hopefully will not need, given McDavid and Draisaitl, of course. Hopefully they won't need that. But if he needs to play on the wing, he's also been playing with Malkin and Crosby at times, and he's been solid there, as we talked about his point totals earlier. So I think Rickard Rakell could be a very, very strong addition. It's a cross-conference trade. Teams prefer to trade across the conference so they won't have to deal with it later. Kyle Dubas is very involved in trades all the time, so I could see him doing that. He just sold Marcus Pettersson a couple days ago to Vancouver, and it seems like the fire sale is on in Pittsburgh, so that should be interesting. But quickly, before we wrap up the video, let's discuss Evander Kane very, very quick here. Because Evander Kane has been skating apparently, and if Evander Kane comes back, do you need the acquisition of a winger? We do know in the playoffs he wasn't as strong as he wanted to be because he was hurt. So if he comes back fully healthy, fully rejuvenated, ready to join the team on a deep playoff run, do you guys think Evander Kane is that kind of trade deadline acquisition? Should the Oilers focus on another defenseman or a goalie like the rumors have been saying? It should be interesting, obviously. But anyways, guys, let me know what you think. Should they go after Rickard Rakell? Should they just let Evander Kane go back? All very interesting things happen with the Edmonton Oilers as they try and get back to the Stanley Cup Finals. So for that and more, make sure you guys subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you guys in the next video. Peace out.